as well, and post it wherever they'd like. But that's the number one questions I get with these presentations is
Yes.
whether or not the recording will be available afterwards. And the good news is it'll be available during, because it's currently on YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah. So my name is Caroline Nickerson. I am from the SciStarter team. I get to spend my days working with people from all over the world to do citizen science, which is real scientific research that anybody can do. And I have a really soft spot in my heart for Pennsylvania, and for all of us Pennsylvania. You all are awesome, and I'm excited to delve into the science of sourdough with you today. There are some folks in the chat asking, are the audience muted? Yes. So later in the event, I will give you all audio and video access if you'd like. It's for our step up to the mic portion at the very end in case you have a question you want to verbally ask. But while we get through the content, the audience is muted. And it looks like somebody from the Hollidaysburg Area Public Library. Awesome. Home of the Slinky. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen. We're going to do some quick intros. So as I said, I'm here with SciStarter. SciStarter connects you to the real science you can do. This event is possible because of the network of the National Library of Medicine and the All of Us research program. And we're so delighted to have All of Us Pennsylvania as our host today and our special guests. And we're also in partnership with a local library. Before we get into the thick of citizen science, we have a few polls for you to fill out. So our first question is, have you ever participated in a citizen science project before? There are no wrong answers here. Yes, no, unsure. Whatever answer makes sense to you, just answer it. If you've never done it before, that's really exciting for me because I'm going to give you all the tools you need to do real science today. If you have done it before, awesome, awesome. Hopefully you'll learn about a new project, or you'll get to delve a little bit deeper in a project that you aren't as familiar with. It looks like I'll give you all maybe 3 more seconds to vote. So 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to end the poll. So it looks like about a half and half split. 55% of you have done citizen science before, and about 45% of you haven't. That's awesome. You're going to learn everything you need to know today to do citizen science or to learn a little bit more about citizen science. Now we want to know a little bit more about you. We want to know, are you an aspiring citizen scientist, a parent of an aspiring citizen scientist, a teacher, an educator, a troop leader, etc.? Are you a librarian or part of a library staff? Are you a researcher or a practitioner? Are you just a bored person on the internet? Or are you none of these? Mm-hmm. So I'll let everybody get their votes in. Okay. I'll give you a few more seconds to vote. 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to end the poll. So it looks like the majority of you are also library staff members. We got an educator on the line with us, and we actually have a few researchers here. So awesome. Glad to have you all here. Before we get into the citizen science content, I want to pass the mic to our host library today so they can talk about what's been going on at their library. Take it away, Mary Rose.
Hi, how are you? My name's Mary Rose Bendel, and I am the Adult Program and Outreach Coordinator for the Carnegie Library of McKeesport. So since I've come back since the beginning of November, we've been slowly bringing programs back to the library. We have our Wise Walk, which is a healthy walk around a local park once a week. We still do our reading social and bringing up our cooking clubs and things of that nature. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Vince?
I'll fill things in a bit. Hi, my name is Vince D'Alessio. I'm the children's librarian and director here at the McKeesport Library. We are gradually reintroducing our services. We had originally opened up to the public back in late June, but then we had that second wave hit and everybody kind of shut down again. And now we're kind of, all the libraries are kind of on their own schedules, deciding which services to reintroduce and how best to do it. So as of right now, we do things like contactless remote pickup and drop off of all of our library items. There's remote outdoor Wi-Fi. We can still do printing and faxing for people. We're taking appointments for people to use our computers and to browse our collection. A lot of our programming, which would normally be in person, indoors, is either moving outside or going virtual. So my story times, which were normally in person, are now virtual. During the summer, I'm planning to move them outside so we can actually have more people here on site without having to have them actually inside the building. We do a lot of cooperative work with other entities in our community. I'm visiting there's a McKeesport Family Center, which I do a story time with them about once a month. I'm going to be visiting Renzi Park, which is a great big open park area where our Wise Walk takes place. Every year there's a big spring storytime event over there. So we cooperate with McKeesport Schools, Family Center, and a few other places to do a great big kids event over there. Summertime coming up, it's going to be all about animals. The official summer reading theme is called Tales and Tales, which is all about animals. So we're going to bring in partners from, I've got the White Oak Animal Shelter is going to be visiting, the Allegheny County Parks are going to be visiting us to do a program about animals. So there's still plenty to do out here.
That is some awesome stuff. And thank you so much to you both for being here today, for caring about citizen science, and for doing the work you do at the library.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're going to talk about some citizen science. I'll walk us through what citizen science is, what the Sourdough for Science project is, which is our featured project for today. And then I'm going to pass the mic to my friends at All of Us Pennsylvania, who are going to walk us through an exciting precision medicine initiative that you can be part of with all of us. So millions of people enjoy science and nature. You all probably count yourselves in this group. If you really like going outside and looking at birds and butterflies, or if you're curious about how the brain works and you wish you understood it better, or maybe you just love looking up at the night sky and trying to find a constellation, that means that you're in good company. It means that you like science, and there are millions of people like you who are intrigued by the world around them and want to understand it. And the good news is there are thousands of scientists that need volunteers just like you who are curious about the world. There's research that couldn't be done without your help. One example I always like to bring up is the Crowd the Tap project. I always ask that research team, why do you call it Crowd the Tap and not Tap the Crowd? And they told me, they just had to pick a name. That's what they went with. And I said, okay. But basically, the premise of that project, it's funded by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and it's based out of North Carolina State University, but it's nationwide across the entire United States. And what that project is asking people to do is to do a simple scratch test on their water pipes to understand what they're made of. And believe it or not, that simple scratch test with just a penny and a magnet and entering that data in an online form listed on SciStarter is the first step we can take toward an inventory of safe drinking water nationally. That one step makes a huge difference. And those researchers, they couldn't do that important work creating that inventory of safe drinking water without the help of citizen scientist volunteers just like you. They can't go door to door and knock on every door and ask to test people's pipes. That's impossible. So that's why your help is so vital. And the examples go on. Another project I like to bring up is the Stall Catchers project. Stall Catchers is a project, you just play an online game to analyze blood vessels for researchers at Cornell University who are trying to accelerate the search for a cure to Alzheimer's disease. Just by playing this game, you're able to conduct analysis for them that is vital, that speeds up their research 5 times than it would be without your help. So, and there are endless examples. Scientists don't have enough eyes, ears, and perspectives to answer every question that needs answering. And that's why they need your help. And that's why we're stronger together with the power of the crowd. But sometimes they can't find each other. These people who are passionate and willing to give back and volunteer for science can't find the researchers who need their help. That's where SciStarter comes in. We connect them. We connect you to the real science that you can do with citizen science. And a big push that we're doing right now, and part of the reason why we're all here, is it's Citizen Science Month. You can do citizen science, public engagement, and real scientific research any day of the year, but we take April as an excuse to kick it up a notch. There's an event going on every day, at least one event. Most days, as many as 10 or 15 that people from all around the world have added to SciStarter for people to discover. So if you go to citizensciencemonth.org, if you end up enjoying this event and you want to delve into more research, there's lots there for you to find. But what is citizen science? To kind of define it in a nutshell, citizen science is a collaboration between researchers and those of us who are curious, concerned, and motivated to make a difference. In other words, it's how people can make an impact on the issues they care about and help science. Citizen science is anything that you do to move science forward. And anybody, anywhere in the world of any age can do citizen science. I do citizen science. I myself am a citizen scientist. I get to do projects in every type of scientific discipline. Citizen science, there are projects in everything from astronomy to biodiversity to health to zoology and everything in between. If there's a science for it, there's also a citizen science for it. So if you're a person who it just really wants to make a difference and you want to turn your curiosity about the world into real impact, then citizen science is for you. And we have a short video to explain how SciStarter can help you discover citizen science.
Citizen science can change the world. These programs mobilize people from all walks of life to contribute to scientific research, from teachers to artists, Girl Scouts to business professionals, students to retirees. Citizen science taps into the power of the people, where they are. Scientific data gathered by individuals and communities gives concerned or curious people, decision makers, and scientists access to more information than they could possibly gather on their own. Your contributions lead to breakthrough research, new approaches, and expedited scientific discoveries. So how can you start to make a difference? SciStarter makes it easy to find the perfect project for you. With a database of more than 3,000 citizen science projects to choose from, you can search by topic, location, age level, and more. Anything that sparks your curiosity is a mere click away. SciStarter can help you take valuable actions to contribute to the projects you're most passionate about. Their tools database provides you with exactly what you need to get started. And with events held across the nation throughout the year, SciStarter brings fun citizen science opportunities directly to you. Visit the SciStarter website to begin exploring the possibilities of scientific participation and create a personal account to receive project suggestions tailored especially for you. Together with SciStarter, we can all play a part in scientific research that can change the world for the better.
So there you have it. SciStarter is a place where you can discover over 3,000 projects, events, and tools that people have added for you to discover. And we fully recognize that this can be a little bit overwhelming. You know, we're setting you loose. We're asking you to explore thousands of different opportunities. That's why I'm so grateful to work with folks like the All of Us Research Program and with libraries around the world, because they're trusted community leaders who can kind of step you into it. You know, like in a program like today, we're showcasing one project to get you started. We're not saying, here's 1,000 projects. It's the best way to get started with citizen science is just to start doing it. And hopefully today's program kind of simplifies it a little bit. It helps you get started. And it helps you know that it's something that you can do today. So, but if you want more, there's definitely more, and you can find it on SciStarter. I always like including this cartoon when I'm introducing people to citizen science for the first time. My colleague, Dr. Karen Cooper, sent it to me, so I like to credit her. I think you'll be delightfully surprised by the quality of my work on this assignment. I crowdsourced it. I think that this really helps hammer home why citizen science is such a cool thing, because I didn't like science for a really long time. I thought of it whenever I heard the word science, it immediately took me back to the 10th grade, and I would think about tests I failed or things that gave me anxiety. But then I realized that with citizen science, it's really just a way of thinking and a way of learning something new about the world and actually meaningfully creating knowledge and being a true part of the scientific enterprise, which is really exciting. And that's another thing I say too, because I know a lot of the folks in the room right now are library staff. when you're doing citizen science with your community, you don't have to worry about knowing every single detail. Because sometimes I'll be doing a program with folks, like a group of retirees, for example, and they'll be asking me really detailed projects about really detailed questions about the outer space projects we're doing. And I'll tell them, I don't have to know every detail about this project to follow the protocols the researcher's given me or to follow the instructions. I just have to be able to do that, to follow those instructions and to analyze or collect data for an ongoing project. And I can still make a meaningful difference, even if I don't know every single detail about how the research works. So I hope that's empowering for you and helps kind of demystify this a little bit. So I also like to start with this, why citizen science is so important and what we know because of the work of people like you, because of citizen scientists. Because of citizen scientists, we now know that bird populations have declined by 50% and that birds are breeding earlier. We also know that there are over 50 types of bacteria that live in your belly button. Because of observations of, and I always like to point out with this fact, so that actually came from the research team who is behind the project you're learning about today, Sourdough for Science. And if you ever feel lonely, just know that all of your belly button bacteria are there to keep you company. But because of citizen scientists, we also know that the first flowering of 19 species of plants has moved 9 days earlier over the past decade. And we know that there's a new type of aurora in the night sky. And the citizen scientists, they named it Steve. I guarantee you if NASA had found this aurora at first, an aurora is like the northern lights, like what you see in the night sky in certain parts of the world, but they wouldn't have named it Steve if researchers had found it first. But because the citizen scientists found it, they got to call it whatever they wanted. We also know because of citizen scientists that there's another Jupiter-sized planet. And because of the observations of people like you, because of them reporting what they see and sending it to researchers, we know that invasive mosquito species have arrived in Germany. And I like to include this fact because libraries were instrumental in this. In one weekend in 2019, citizen scientists accomplished 2,566 research hours, or 3.5 months of lab equivalent research time for an Alzheimer's research project. That's pretty cool, and it wouldn't have happened without the work of libraries and their patrons playing the stall catchers game and doing Alzheimer's research. So once again, we're in Citizen Science Month. That's part of the reason why we're here. This event is a celebration of citizen science. Citizen Science Month is kind of like our Super Bowl at SciStarter. So I hope that this event helps you get in the spirit and you want to keep celebrating. If you are interested in kind of keeping track of the real scientific research you're doing, I would go ahead and make a SciStarter account. You can do that by going to the URL up on my screen, scistarter.org/NLM. On that page are the network of the National Library of Medicine's featured projects, as well as a tutorial available in English and Spanish to really get you acclimated to citizen science. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going to delve into today's featured project, Sourdough for Science. I have this video. It was made by one of our educational advisors, Dr. Carrie Ann. I like playing this video because, quite frankly, she's hilarious. And I think that this is a really great introduction to the science of sourdough.
Hi there, it's Dr. Carrie Ann. Citizen science has always been a great way to participate in science, but now it also offers a powerful gateway to learning. Today, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite projects available on scistarter.org, Sourdough Science. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to extend the learning beyond the science of the project. Humans have been making, baking, and eating bread for over 10,000 years. But scientists still don't know a lot about those microbes that give us all those delicious carbs. Participating in this project will help scientists to better understand how the types of flour influence microbial growth, and those microbes in turn determine the texture, flavor, and aroma of the bread that we love to eat. This project is a great jumping off point for a bunch of important topics in biology and chemistry. You can extend your learning into microbes, pH, anaerobic and aerobic respiration, fermentation, data collection, and graphing, just to name a few. So let's go over the basics of what doing this project looks like, and then I'll come back and give you some ideas for how to go even further. The Sourdough Science Citizen Science Project is great for the classroom or home because it doesn't require a lot of specialized supplies, and you can ramp it up or ramp it down depending on the age and ability of the students you're working with. You probably will need to special order some pH papers from a place like Amazon.
I want to quickly chime in and note that she made this video with educators in mind, but you can participate in the Sourdough for Science project on your own as an adult. I know I definitely do. And I'll explain after this video a little bit about the wild sourdough project that's related to this. And it is a little bit easier to do because there are a few different steps. So anyway, I'll get back to the video.
Other than that, you should be able to round up everything else in your house or classroom. Go to the website and you can download detailed directions and a materials list and print off a copy of the data sheet that you'll need to record all of your observations. Once you have everything in place, you're going to set up your experiment something like this. Notice that each jar has a label. Those labels include the start date, the type of flour in the jar, and my initials, so we know who did what when. And every day we're going to take some important measurements. One, we're going to measure our pH each day with a new fresh pH strip. You're going to touch it to the back of your sample so it doesn't discolor your pH squares. That'll just make it easier to read when you go to compare it against the color chart. You're also going to measure the height of your starter each day, and both of those measurements will be recorded on your data sheet. And lastly, you also want to do an aroma test most days, which means you're going to need to uncap it just like you would to do the pH or the height measurement, and then you're going to take a big whiff, and this one smells really sour. It's well on its way to forming a great sourdough starter. Then you can cover it back up and put it back in a spot without direct sunlight. After 14 days, you'll have completed your data sheet and have a sourdough starter. It's not citizen science until the data has been submitted. So make sure at the end of the experiment, you upload all of your amazing data on scistarter.org so scientists can start analyzing your findings. Transcribe your data into the digital file, upload a photo of your data sheet, upload photos of your starter, and click submit. And bam, you're doing CitSci like a pro. Let's talk about ways to extend our learning from this project. An obvious question to ask is, what are those microbes doing in there that's turning it into sourdough starter? Which in turn might lead students to wonder, how do microbes make yogurt? Well, now you can get into all sorts of research and investigation into cellular respiration, both aerobic and anaerobic and even fermentation. Or maybe students are interested in pH. What is pH? What do we mean by an acid and what makes something an acid? Or what makes something basic and what do we mean by that? You could also have students investigate the macromolecules that make up living things. So bread is a carbohydrate predominantly. What are the other macromolecules that make up living things? And why do they make up living things? And do they share anything in common? Why do we call them macromolecules? Those are just a few ways that you can go further with this project and touch on topics that are going to show up in traditional chemistry and biology classes. After all, the more you know, the more you know.
So the best place to go on SciStarter to discover this project is scistarter.org/education. And one reason I think this project's really cool is it's kind of harkening back to our ancestors. Bread is something that stretches past centuries through thousands of different years. So this project, there are two different versions of it. There's the longer version where they have a forum hosted on SciStarter, And there's a kind of more user-friendly version where you can make your own starter with just with fewer ingredients. And that one's called Wild Sourdough. And you can find links for both on scistarter.org/education. For the more easy one, it's a little bit shorter. It's not as many days as the first one. But at its core, you're basically trying to understand microbes. And you're taking different measurements about your starter and sharing your data based on that. I really like this graphic because I think it shows how a sourdough starter, the bacteria from the environment, the yeast also from the environment, and flour all come together to produce bread. And it's so interesting to me that bread is something that's so ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We've all seen bread in our lives, but it's also something that's not as understood as it could be. So the lab that runs this project is the same lab that did the belly button research that you heard about earlier. The lab that runs this project wants to really understand microbes, and they want to know for the new project, the Wild Sourdough project, how the type of flour you use and where you live affects the success or failure of your wild sourdough starter. So basically, when you submit your data to these researchers, they're comparing it to data from all over the world, and they're trying to really isolate the questions of location and flour type. So that's the thing I really want to emphasize. The new Wild Sourdough project, it's pretty easy. You're able to make your own starter with ingredients you have at the home, and the measurements you send in to the researchers are going to help them understand how type of flour and where you live affects the success or failure of your wild sourdough starter. And if your starter doesn't take, if it doesn't actually, help you make bread, don't be discouraged. The researchers still want you to send that data in, because even failure is perhaps an even more important data point than success. And I like this quote. It was from an article that we did with that research team. They said, in a time when a lot of the press about microbes is negative, we're excited to focus on the bacteria and yeast that help us thrive. We have to be grateful to bread, It's taken us a really, really long way. So just to reiterate, for the new project, Wild Sourdough, as opposed to the more longer time-intensive project, which is called Sourdough for Science, it's only a 10-day protocol. You're basically going to answer some questions about the flour that you used to make your starter and where you happen to be in the world and how well your starter is doing. So basically, you indicate what it smells like. You answer questions on the form about the aroma, and you also indicate how fast it rises. And there are a lot of additional resources. Like, you can do this project on your own. I know this project really blew up, especially at the beginning of public health guidelines that required social distancing, because around then, pretty much everybody was baking bread. So you can definitely do this when you're home alone. I know I did when I was self-isolating the first 2 months of COVID, completely by myself in DC, just making a lot of bread. But you can also do this project, and this project has produced a lot of resources for educators and community leaders. So if you wanted to bring this into your library and have folks monitor your sourdough, you could do the longer version of the project or the shorter version. They have so many educator resources, and it's really easy to integrate it into a teaching environment, whether you're working with adult learners or younger folks as well. That being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. I'll reshare it when we get to the All of Us Pennsylvania portion. I want to see if anybody has any questions. Has anyone here, anyone on the panel, like Kirsten, have you made bread ever before? Or you ever used a sourdough starter? I see you shaking your head no.
I've never made bread. I was telling you right before we started, though, that we have good friends who are huge into bread making, and I'm definitely going to be sending this to them, saying, make your bread making worth it.
Their insights, the things that they report, can help researchers understand microbes and why bread is the way it is.
Yeah, and I'm definitely interested in doing it as well. I think it will be super fun.
Awesome. Anyone else on the panel? Have you all ever made your own bread before, or you ever used a sourdough starter? I see Lori nodding her head. Yes, Lori's from All of Us Pennsylvania as well.
Oh yeah, and I made a whole lot of bread during the early days days of the pandemic restrictions. Whoops, my microphone was up. Yeah, I made a lot of bread during the early days of the restrictions like you did. But I'm wondering how closely the sourdough starter relates to the Amish friendship bread starter. Has anybody ever made that?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm actually going to write that down and pose it next time I talk to the research team.
Okay.
Someone asked, why is it called sourdough? Is it mainly acidic? I believe so, but I have some resources for further reading that I can follow up in the notes. The research team's written extensively on this. And the main thing that they really hone in on is the aroma aspect when you're participating in the project. So you'll be smelling your starter quite a bit.
Nadia's still perfecting her pizza dough.
Ooh! Yes, and if you all end up participating in this project, post what you're doing on social media and tag SciStarter. We would love to celebrate you. I think it's so cool that we're able to have big insights about something so integral to human life, which is bread, just by using simple materials in our own homes.
That's awesome.
If I don't see any more questions, I think we'll pivot to the all of us portion if you're ready for it.
I am ready. Ready as I'll ever be.
Let's go for it.
All right. So welcome everyone. We are so excited that you joined us today for this really cool project. Thank you to Caroline for presenting Sourdough for Science, and a huge thank you to the Carnegie Library of McKeesport for being such great partners of the All of Us research program here in Pennsylvania, and of course, good partners to Citizen Science. I'm Kirsten. I am a senior research participant recruiter here with the All of Us Pennsylvania program. You will see some of my colleagues have joined us as well, including Lori, who is the head of our department and is wonderful. So as we go towards the end, any questions you guys might have, either of us would be more than happy to answer those questions. So a lot of you here might be wondering what All of Us is. All of Us is a national research database that is hosted by the NIH. We here are part of the University of Pittsburgh Clinical and Translational Science Institute. So we have been awarded a grant through the NIH to be part of the All of Us research program, which is a national research program that's trying to eliminate a one-size-fits-all approach to medicine. It's used by many different researchers. This is not just one research project, it's a research program. There's many, many researchers that will have access to this information in the future for many, many different studies about a wide variety of different medical issues that we may face. And for many, many years to come, All of Us is an evergreen program. We're looking at about 10 years of recruitment and development of the program. And we are happy to have something like this as part of our country is starting to approach medicine differently. Next slide, Caroline. So a lot of you may be asking, what is precision medicine? And that is exactly what I said. It's trying to eliminate a one-size-fits-all approach to how we are treated by our physicians and our healthcare workers. So precision medicine is an emerging approach for disease treatment and prevention that takes into account individual variability in lifestyles, our environment, and our biological makeup. We're all different based on our makeup, the lifestyle we live, and this is a radical shift in how we are each being received the best care possible. Right now, you go into a doctor's office and you may be treated very similarly for the same conditions and the same health issues as the person right in front of you. However, you are very different human beings and may need different treatments for those different conditions. So that is precision medicine, and that is the main goal of the All of Us research program, is to continue to improve precision medicine. Next slide, Caroline. So there is precision medicine in real life all over the place that you guys see right now. However, we're looking to do some more here. It's the right treatment for the right person. So right now, one of our, these are just a few examples of what precision medicine looks like in the real world. And right now, one of our favorite examples to use is about your prescription eyeglasses. When we all go to the doctor, we go in, we sit down, we read some letters, and the doctor looks in our eyes and puts some different things. You say one or two, and by the time you walk out of that doctor's office, you have the perfect prescription and you can see better. How often does that happen with other types of medical treatment? How often are you, able to go with, a heart condition or cancer or Alzheimer's? You go in, and as soon as you are there, the doctor knows what's wrong and can tailor it to your genetic makeup, your lifestyle, and whatnot. So that is what all of us is trying to make better for the community. Next slide. So all of us, Pennsylvania, like I said, is part of the University of Pittsburgh, and the University of Pittsburgh is responsible for recruiting 120,000 Pennsylvanians. So we are well on our way to recruiting that many people in the state of Pennsylvania, but this is a national project, and we are looking to recruit over 1 million people across the entire country. So if you were out of the state of Pennsylvania by chance, you can definitely still enroll. You'll just go to joinallofus.org and look at some other ways that you can enroll. Next slide. So you're probably thinking, what does the enrollment process look like? There's a couple different steps to enroll. We are recruiting people, anybody 18 and up, to enroll in this program. You do not have to be sick. You don't have to be healthy. You can have health conditions. You can have no health conditions. And anybody who is willing is able to participate. There is an online interactive consent process, and it will include some authorization to share electronic health data, and then a consent to get your DNA results should you wish. We are returning some results as our program goes on. We're growing, and we're starting to be able to return some results. There are some initial surveys that you'll take, basic information, overall health, lifestyle, and then there's some other ones, healthcare access and utilization, family medical history, and your personal health history. All of these survey questions are going to help our researchers develop these different types of projects. And then there are going to be additional surveys released on an ongoing basis. This isn't a, you enroll one time type of thing. We do have a lot of things coming down that will be released to our participants down the line. And then we do ask for you to come in to an in-person appointment. Right now we have 5 clinics open in the Pittsburgh greater area that we are enrolling at. And they will take your blood pressure, your heart rate, do some height and weight measurements, your hip circumference measurement, a waist circumference measurement, and your BMI. And all of these will go into a very secure database along with your information. And then again, once researchers are going to do some research, they're able to access that. And then of course, we're going to ask you to provide some bio samples while you're at our appointment as well. We're going to collect some blood, and then we're going to collect some urine. And then again, these are going to be stored at our program's biobank. And again, will be able to be accessed by researchers with the right permissions down the line. And then there are some opportunities for wearables and digital apps where you might be able to share your data from your Fitbit. And again, all information that is incredibly important. Just like Sourdough for Science, the more data that the researchers can have, the more developments that we can come up with in our health care. Next slide, Caroline. There is some compensation for our participants. You guys, if you contribute information that can lead to new treatment and prevent strategies for generations to come, and a $25 gift card. Right now in the Pittsburgh area, there are Giant Eagle gift cards, but we do have other options available. And then we are able to provide parking or bus passes to anybody who comes into that in-person visit. And they are going to be receiving results from designated blood work and screenings. Those are kind of on a rolling basis. Some people have, may not want that information, and that is okay. And that you can just tell us that you don't want it, but it's still very useful to us. And also returning of genetic results. So we are starting to return some ancestry information from this information that we're collecting, which has been really cool for the participants to be able to see maybe where their ancestors are from. And we have some great resources that you can kind of figure out what does that mean and how does that affect my health, which is really exciting for people who may not have had access to that in the past. Next slide, Caroline. And that was all that I wanted to go over with you guys. I know that there is a lot there, and if there are any questions that Lori and I might be able to answer, or if Lori, you want to chime in and say anything else, you're more than well, you guys can put them in the chat. Oh, yes. Lori reminded me that there is an Erie clinic opening up soon. So if you're in the Erie area, stay tuned for that. And then the other locations, like she mentioned, are Bethel Park, Monroeville, Oakland, and Altoona. So are there any other questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Lori, was there anything else you wanted to add while we wait for some questions? She's shaking her head no.
Nope, I think that was great. And I just want to remind people that your information is kept private between you and the program. And so it is not sold to anyone, and your information is de-identified from your name. So that when the researchers look at it, you are a number and they are not looking at it assigned to your name. And also that even if you aren't living near one of the clinics and are not able to complete the in-person appointment, completing the consent forms and completing the questionnaires, which can be done online from the comfort of your home or smartphone, that is still valuable information. So we would encourage you to consider participating, even if you cannot get to the location to complete your biosamples. The researchers are able to look at your health records and look at the answers to your questionnaires about your lifestyle and your environment. And that is still really helpful.
I have a question for you both while other people get their questions in the chat. What's something about all of us that has surprised you?
Ooh, Lori, you'll go first.
Oh boy, something that surprised me. Caroline, you're stumping me. I think that one thing that surprised me is that all of us is actually a big supporter and proponent of citizen scientists. And so when I was learning about the types of researchers that could have access to the Research Data Hub, I was surprised to see that it didn't always need to be high-level university researchers, that there is a part of the Research Hub that is available to the general public where the information is aggregate. And so anyone can utilize that information to learn more about their community or more about different individuals and lifestyles. So I will try to get that link and pop that in the chat so people can find the Research Hub.
That's really cool.
It is.
Yeah. That was a much better answer than I was going to have. I started with the program only about 1.5 years ago. And I think when I was first hearing about all of us in my interview process, the biggest surprise that I had was how much our environment can, play into our health. And it's something that we don't really consider based on where we live. I actually grew up in Erie. So I grew up on Lake Erie, obviously, and was exposed to different types of environments when you're living on a lake. And then I moved to Pittsburgh and was then exposed to more industrial environments, and how that might be affecting my health is something I never would have thought about. And I think there's a lot of that we don't know because of that. And that's probably one of the coolest parts I think about all of us, is as we're collecting this data and finding out where people grew up or where they currently live or where they have lived or any type of environmental factors that they might be facing in their home and how that's affecting their health and how we can continue to treat it based off of that. So that's probably the coolest thing for me, that there's hope there.
So there's a question in the chat from Amy about asking, can you decline the blood test? Every part of research is voluntary. So anything that you do, then you choose to do it. So you can absolutely decline the blood test. You can just contribute the health records and the questionnaires and never go for the blood test. Prior to the pandemic restrictions, we used to allow people to provide a saliva sample in our clinics instead of the blood test. However, we are currently not allowed to do that. And so right now, individuals who choose not to provide the blood sample just would not come in for a clinic visit. And that means that they haven't completed all of the steps of the study and are not eligible for the $25 compensation for their time. Other than that, they are still a full participant in the study. So they are still contributing health records and answers to questionnaires, just no biosamples to match that up, since we can't do the saliva samples in the clinic right now. But you absolutely can still be a participant without the biosample. So great question. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that we covered the Sourdough for Science project and all of us together in the same program, because I think that showcases the breadth of things you can explore with science. I mean, one day you can be contributing samples and helping make medicine better for everybody. And then another day you can help answer the mysteries of something like bread, which has been with us for thousands of years, but we still don't really understand what makes different types of bread work and how different types of flour impacts bread and how different locations impact the components of bread. So there's a big world out there, and I'm excited to explore it with you all. I'll let folks get any other questions they have in the chat, but at the close of these events, I always like to pivot back to the library and see what you all are thinking. If there's anything today that surprised you or anything new you learned, or just any thoughts you have about science for us. So I'll pivot back to our friends at the library.
Hey, I think that in citizen science, the sheer breadth of like you said, there's over 3,000 different experiments you can be a part of. That to me sounds like an ideal programming resource that I can tap into now. So maybe I can help advertise some of these events. I mean, people can do them in their own homes as well, so that helps too.
Yeah, that's the thing that's why I love working with libraries, because you all are, you know how to run a program. You know how to lead people to do things. So when you choose to champion an ongoing research project like Sourdough for Science or like Stall Catchers, that Alzheimer's research game we talked about, you're able to, I think, really galvanize some collective impact with the community. So yes, citizen science and libraries are a perfect fit.
Yes, yes. It's always nice to have somebody work out some of the details too for you, or most of the details, and we can just, ride on your programs. So that's very nice. That's what I've been thinking. Just how we can use the resource that you provide for our patrons. So thank you very much.
That's how I feel about the details too, because if I was responsible for analyzing the data for all these different projects, I mean, we'd never discover anything. I'd be really overwhelmed. But the fact that I'm able to kind of inspire people to get involved with these different projects, and then the researchers who have the background knowledge to really analyze the data that people are contributing to come up with some sort of insight or new knowledge about bread, I think that's really cool. I think we all kind of have our part to play there. And we all have different details we can contribute. Great. I want to pivot back to Lori and Kirsten. Any other final thoughts for us before we go?
No, I just want to give a huge thank you to you, Caroline, for championing this and being a huge part of citizen science. I think it's really incredible what you do every day. And thank you for letting all of us partner with you guys. And thanks for letting us be here today to talk about the program. I don't want to speak for Lori, but I know that it's exciting for us when we get to speak to other people about the program, because we really believe in it and we really believe in the future of all of us. So thank you for being a champion for us. And Mary Rose and Vince, thank you for your partnership again. We are very grateful to you guys and are, excited about all the fun things to come with all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much.
Sure thing.
Looking forward to working with you again soon.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And on your way out, if you could fill out this survey, I'll stop sharing my screen so I can drop it in the chat. It really helps us improve future programs and it lets us know how we're doing. And I think that's it for now. Let's all go bake some bread. And if you end up doing the project, it's really easy. You really only need flour and some basic household ingredients to do the shorter version of it. Post it on social, tag SciStarter, and we will celebrate you. Have a good day, everybody. Happy Friday.